Ready to go.
Yes, we do have someone.
Sally?
No, Sravanthi.
Sravanthi? So she doesn't need a level. She's a plenary speaker.
No, this is another person.
Oh, okay, another Sravanthi.
No, it's Sravanthi.
Hers says level 5. So.
We need to start.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes.
And Swarna also needs to put her level on. Okay.
Hello and welcome to the Leaders Worldwide Speechcraft program, hosted by Heart to Heart and Toastmasters Club. I am Sally Reyes, your Sergeant at Arms and member of Heart to Heart Executive Committee. Please take out your phones and set them to silence. Please help me welcome our Executive Director of this Speechcraft program. She is also sponsor of the upcoming Leaders Worldwide Toastmasters Club, chartering in October 2020. She serves as Finance Manager of District 57, as well as Secretary to Heart Toastmasters Club. The indomitable Linda Patton. Take it away.
Thank you, Sally, so very much. Your introductions are always fascinating, and I love them. Thank you. So I want to welcome you to the 6th edition of this 8-week Speechcraft, and it's gotten better each week. It's gotten easier. The flow has happened, and we're just really delighted to have you all here. I thank Gary Gardner for his 15-second accolade for what we're doing. It really makes me feel very, very, very good. I just want to remind you that when you're not speaking, if you would please mute yourself and also mute your picture. It just saves us all on bandwidth, and that way all of the speakers can be heard and seen. So if you could do that, I would greatly appreciate it. In addition, this Speechcraft is a labor of love between Cynthia Stott and myself, Michelle Pitacola, and Diane Pless, who are on my advisory committee. And its purpose is not only to be able to transform new speakers into polished speakers, but it's also to help us to open leaders worldwide. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Cynthia Stott to tell us just a little bit about Leaders Worldwide. Cynthia? Cynthia, you're muted.
Whoops. Thank you. That's the usual case, right? Leaders Worldwide will be launching in October, and we're actually going to have 2 editions because we're such a global organization. We have people from around the world that don't want to have to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning in order to be with us. So the first Monday of the month will be just like it is right now, 5:45 to 8 p.m. Pacific San Francisco time. And the 2nd and 4th Monday will be at 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific San Francisco time. So that's going to be our Asia, Europe, and Middle East edition, so that people from the Middle East and Asia and not Asia, Africa and Europe can join us. And then the evening time will be our Asia, the Americas, and Oceania, including Australia and New Zealand. So excited. If you want to be a member of a charter member, which stays with you for your whole lifetime, can't be taken away even if you stop going to the club or stop going to Toastmasters, you're still a charter member of Leaders Worldwide. If you would like to be a part of that, please email me, Cynthia Stott, at Cynthia Stott, CYNTHIAST, as in Tom, OTT, DTM for Distinguished Toastmaster, at yahoo.com. And I'll put that in the chat a little later as well when we come back from the break, or possibly before. Great. So that's what I have for the Leaders Worldwide. Did you want me to introduce one of the speakers now, Linda, or did you want me to give you the floor back? Oops, Linda's not there. Uh-oh. I hope we didn't lose her. Okay, well, I am just going to move right along then and introduce our first. Oh, there she is, Linda. Did you want me to introduce the speaker now, or did you want to?
Please, feel free.
Okay, so our first speaker is Sravanthi Vallampati, and I'm going to introduce her in just a sec here. Let me get her bio, her amazing bio. She's coming to us from Cleveland, Ohio. So let's see, Sravanthi. Okie dokie. The title of her speech, her presentation today is My Trifecta. And as always, we're going to have a chat back and forth 5 minutes after she speaks. So go ahead and put in the chat any questions you have, comments you have all along the way. And our beautiful Michelle Peticolis, Dr. Michelle Peticolis, will read those aloud after her presentation. And she has 15 minutes for this presentation, Mona. Thank you.
And Cynthia, did you need her bio?
I have her bio.
Okay.
Okay, she is a resident of Cleveland, Ohio, USA. Sravanthi joined Toastmasters in 2013 to practice speaking purposefully and succinctly, but stayed for the enormous value and incredible friendships it continues to add to her life. A member of 4 clubs, Sravanthi has served all club officer roles except treasurer, and as area director, division director, program quality director, and district director. A club sponsor, mentor, coach, youth leadership program coordinator, and pathways guide. She is on her way to getting her second DTM. An incurable optimist, she revels in all things Toastmasters and believes in its unlimited potential to alter our perception of ourselves and the ever-evolving world around us. Please help me welcome Sravanthi Vallampati, my trifecta, trifecta, Sravanthi Vallampati.
Thank you, Cynthia. Good evening, friends. I am delighted to be here, and in a moment, I will be sharing my screen. If you could give me just 1 second. Is everyone able to chat during the session? Is that something we have?
Yes, you do. We have chat
Okay,
during the session.
fantastic, fantastic.
And
Good
then
evening, friends.
you don't have to watch it because we have Michelle watching it for you, and she'll moderate that segment for you. Okay, great. I'm going to make this a little interactive, if that's okay with all of you. This is an exciting time for me, an exciting time not just because I'm here with so many friends and so many of you who I don't know, but excitement because this is the first time that I have had to go back and say, what is it that I'm going to present that is truly reflective of my Toastmasters journey? And I chose my trifecta because I said somehow, being a gardener, I have this fascination with planting and trees. Growing up, my grandmother just told me, I don't even know if she knew it existed, but she went by the dictums of 3. She said, when you place 3 things together, it just makes more sense. So I learned to be a gardener from my grandmother. And I said, today, as I go through and explain to you a little bit about my journey and my learning and my successes and failures and that whole package, I said, how do I bring it all together? And I said, my trifecta would be something that I want to talk about. Because I tend to work in 3s. 3 words, 3 people, 3 plants, 3 flowers in a bouquet. I don't know why. So that's exactly what I'm going to share with you today. A trifecta, my friends, I learned, is a bet placed on a horse race in which the bettor must predict which horses will finish first, second, and third in that order. And that sometimes, if you think about it, makes perfect sense because in life, when we think about something, something has to come first. And if we sometimes get them mixed up, we soon realize that that's not what it was meant to be. So before we begin, how many of you, by show of hands, if I could see on my screen or in the chat window, how many of you think Toastmasters is all about improvement?
How many of you are here? How many of us are here who think that Toastmasters is about continuous improvement? Okay, all right, wonderful. How many of us bring what we already have in terms of our talents to Toastmasters or to everyday life? Do you? Do you think of your talents? Because I, for one, believe in positivity. I, for one, believe that we all have gifts. But we are so accustomed to listening to others who tell us that you must focus on improving this. This is your opportunity. And a lot of us come to Toastmasters with that mindset that we must improve on this. But I want to slightly turn your mindset into thinking about it as you have that talent DNA. You have what it takes. It is just that you coming into Toastmasters is going to make it shine that much more. I want us to take about 1 minute, if I could get. I want us to take about a minute to tell me 3 of your words, any words, whether you think of it as a strength, as your superpower, or your talent. If you could share that, that would be perfect to get us started. Your strengths, your superpowers, or your talents.
One, Fatima says leadership skills.
Mm-hmm.
Mohammed says empowering attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Fatima says management skills and mentoring. Charles says connection. Shabana says positivity, grit, and empowering others. Amelia says mindfulness.
And I love the willingness to make mistakes. I'm looking
Yes.
at that too. Willingness to make mistakes and active listening.
Yeah.
Now, when you bring these to forefront, I love these, and thank you so much for your participation. When Cynthia said I would be speaking, I said, I don't want to give a speech. I want to make this a conversation. And that's really what I'm looking for, enthusiasm, passion, and clarity. So let's take that, for example, from Michelle. Thank you, Michelle, for that. I'll use yours as an example. If you have enthusiasm, you carry passion, and you can think clearly, my question to you is, do you employ them every day? Do you bring them to the table every single day? Do you think about them actively and intentionally? Sometimes when we are so busy learning and meeting expectations and putting that pressure on ourselves, we tell ourselves a different story. We don't always tell ourselves our stories of strength, our stories of courage. We tell ourselves our stories of opportunities, our stories of weakness. And that's really what I'm here to talk about. Because if I had ever thought about my story of weakness and opportunity day in and day out, I probably wouldn't have been able to do what I have done. And I say that simply because I am an incurable optimist, and I'm also an unbudging volunteer. I'm a chronic volunteer. So to me, a hand half raised is not a hand raised at all. A hand has to be fully raised, and almost always my hand stays raised. And the first time that I was challenged at looking at myself a little more deeply was right around the time that I joined Toastmasters. I came to the table and I said, really, what do I bring? Because I was put on a committee that would talk about our workplace and why it's a great place to work. And we were supposed to write an essay. And I said, really, I've never reflected on what makes me special. Do I have a talent at all? Has anyone felt that? Do I have a talent at all? Do I bring anything to the table that's worthwhile? Do I deserve, if there are only 3 seats, do I deserve a seat at that table? I doubted myself. This is about self-discovery. This is about that mindset. This is about knowing what we already have and what we can bring to the table. Because with the right mindset, my friends, you and I can turn our weaknesses into our strengths. And I will tell you, some of our greatest successes, and I hope you agree with that, some of our greatest successes come to us when we leverage our strengths, but when we are aware of our opportunities. That means that we are not affected, but we are aware. So this is the first thing that I did, is to reflect, self-awareness. Because as Toastmasters, as communicators and leaders, I don't think we'll make it too far if we don't know how to lead and manage ourselves. So this is who I am. I engage with people. I love engaging with people. I almost have an instant, that sense of empathy with people. I relate to their pleasure and pain at the same level as they do. And I somehow, with my positivity, tend to energize them. So think about your 3 words and think about who you really are. When that ended and I slowly started moving into a leadership position, I looked at myself and I said, do I have the desire to lead? Do I have the diversity of knowledge, of experience, of learning, success and failure at my behest? And do I have the depth in any of those subject matters that is required to do my job, to be a better Toastmaster, to be a better friend, to be that person who someone can count on, to be that person who can lead herself and lead others? And so I worked on it. I worked on my engagement, on my empathy, and on my energy. And I said, I do have that desire. And I do bring my diversity of experience. And I do build that depth. I do bring that enthusiasm to build that depth. Because we have to work at it. And like Abraham Lincoln once said, give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 sharpening my axe. And that's really what I did. I worked very hard to develop this, but I almost always carried that desire to mind myself, to lead myself, and to lead others. And being that volunteer that I am, I developed that diversity. And wherever there was a need, I went in and created that depth. And it did not come without failures. And I failed quite a few times before I even succeeded. I was not the most successful area director. I was not the most successful division director, but I have groomed the most successful area directors and division directors because I put my learnings to gain. Next 3. So far, does that resonate with you? If you know who you are and you carry that desire to be a better leader, to be a better communicator, I think it behooves all of us to take a deeper look at that. And my 3rd set of 3s came when I moved into my district director role. Last June of 2019, I stood out there and it became a little more operational to me. I said, it's not just on paper, this passion, this desire to lead and this desire to communicate. Now it was becoming more and more operational. I needed to get work done. I needed to work through people. I needed to stay aware and adaptable and hold myself and everyone else accountable. So it became more operational for me. I needed to make sure that I was aware of what my district needed. I needed to be aware of what my own responsibilities were, how I was going to support and coach and mentor and listen to other people, and how I needed to adapt, and how I needed to hold myself and others accountable. Whether it was deadlines, whether it was our own responsibilities, whether it was our projects, it was important. It was very, very important to me. If this resonates with you, now in your responsibility today, wherever that is, whether you're at the temple, whether you're at the workplace, whether you're in Toastmasters, tell me 3 things that you have adapted to today based on the need of the hour. There is always a need of the hour. There is that deep desire within us to do something, but there is always the need of the hour. Share your next set of 3, if you will, about how you have adapted perhaps. What is the need of the hour right now that you're feeling? Many of you are already Toastmasters. Some of you are considering joining Toastmasters. If I was not a Toastmaster, I really would not have had the courage to look at myself this closely and this honestly. So share, if you will, your 3 words where you are pivoting today, where you are adapting today. Absolutely, I love it. Because the first three are our talents, right? What we are very good at. And the next three is what is the need of the hour. How are we matching our talents to the need of the hour? Collaboration, patience, and communication. Perhaps they were not Khadijah's strengths at one time. Today she is adapting because she has recognized a need of the hour. Optimism, compassion, and consistency. Absolutely. Creativity, innovation, and communication. Some of you may have heard of the top model. How many of you have heard about the top model? And I have it at the end of this slide deck for you. So it's called the talent, the opportunity, and the passion, or the talent, opportunity, and passion. Talent is what we are good at. Passion is what we really want to do. An opportunity is where our talent meets our passion, and within that, Venn diagram is that center where we have that perfect sweet spot. So if you will invest some time in understanding, and I'm working with threes, it doesn't have to be your three. Yours could be 2 words, yours could be 1 statement, yours could be 1 sentiment. But if you are intentional about it, I bet you and I will all be in a better place. And I'm telling you, in all honesty, I would not have been able to come out and talk about this and look at myself honestly and say, I am not perfect, but I have everything in me to be awesome every single day, right? Last but not least, COVID hit. In March, when COVID hit and I was district director, I was devastated. And I will say, I was at my most vulnerable. That day in March, it was a Thursday, and I know how I felt. I'm like, I wanted to take my district to distinguished, and now it's not going to happen. But I did not give up. I said, we will be differently distinguished. We will be distinguished, albeit differently. So what I really experienced, my friends, is grit, grace, and gratitude. This is what I saw in everyone around me in Toastmasters. And that's really where all of this comes to bear. Talent meets opportunity, talent, passion, and opportunity. Talent is what we are inherently good at. This is what we are skilled to do. Passion, it was we really want to do or love to do. And opportunity is where some of our talent, some of our passion all comes together. So what I really experienced is grit, grace, and gratitude. So I've shared 4 different sets of 3s, but my final trifecta is not any of this. With Toastmasters, with an honest look at self-management, self-regulation, and self-awareness, I really landed on 3 things, my perfect trifecta. And that is, I know clearly where I want to go. I know clearly who I am. I know to make a connection and lead with humanity. I know that each one of us matters. Each one of us, our talent, our uniqueness matters. And that confidence to say, I may not have it all together, but you know what? I know what it takes. I have the right mindset. To me, that will take us to where we want to go. And I hope I've shared a little bit about what Toastmasters has given me, how it has given me the honesty and the flexibility to be okay with giving myself that license to look at myself in vulnerability and in strength, and count on my strengths a little more than I count on my vulnerabilities. And I want to leave you with this. I want us to believe in who we are. I want us to give everything that we commit to, our all. And I want us to enjoy the journey, because the only impossible journey is the one you or I never begin. Back to you, and I can take questions.
Okay, so Rasana says, I love that you say that success did not come without failure. What an inspiring speech.
Thank you.
And Charles said great audience engagement. I asked the question, I would like to know more about how the pandemic helped you to develop that grace and grit. Do you have a little story you could share with us?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The pandemic hit, and I'll just leave this on the screen. I had to fill this out for one of those opportunities that I took. And I do have one that you could use. I want to leave you with this tool, which I will, and I can place a link to it. And a little anecdote. So when the pandemic hit in March, I was suddenly responsible not just for goals and numbers, but for the human side of things. We had many members who could not pay dues. We have some prison clubs. We have from government agencies, people who had lost their jobs, who were not willing to meet, who did not know how to use technology to their benefit. And the challenge of bringing them all together and keeping their spirits up was the one thing that became the only important thing. Because at that point, achieving our goals, making our numbers was the last thing on our minds. Keeping that spirits up, keeping our members' spirit up as a community, being together, growing them and supporting and leading with that humanity became more important. And I have one special story that I'd like to share. There is a Toastmaster in our district who had lost his job, who could not attend meetings because he did not want to. He said, I have not paid my dues. I don't want to attend meetings because my club knows that I have not paid my dues. At that point, how do you as a leader say, it's okay, go on and attend meetings, right? But those are the kinds of decisions we have to make. And there were club coaches, and bringing it down to Toastmasters, that is one. Bringing it down to another Toastmaster example, there were many club coaches who were this close to achieving their DTMs. Their clubs did not make distinguished, right? Their clubs were not distinguished because they did not achieve their member payments. It was March, it was renewal time, right? All of us remember that. They did not achieve their DTM goals. So the coaches were that far, just this far. And this was even before Toastmasters International came back with the directive that we would give them an extra year. So they were really disappointed. And there we voted to have the conference online, as well as all of our division contests and our district contest. So we voted yes. I'm so proud of our district. We voted yes for both, to hold the contest and the conference. We had a 3-day conference. And at the end of the year, out of 108 districts in the world, we were 18th in the world to bring as many clubs online as possible. As many clubs in good standing online. We were 18th in the world. That is huge. We were shy in member payments, but we achieved at the area, at the club, and the district level so many different awards that it just made everyone, that grace, grit, and gratitude that I was talking about, that is what came through. So to me as a leader, I had to lead just not so much to make numbers, not so much to make our district distinguished, but it was just about being grateful for what we have, praying for help, writing to TI many times, asking if they would cut us a little bit of a slack here and there in member payments, working with each club, each member. Almost for, I would say my last 90 days were a blur. I don't know if I knew when my day ended, my work day began, my Toastmasters day blended in, and the nights happened. I really don't even remember. But that was such a beautiful thing. I have made more friends in these last 3 months around the world and in our district than I have ever made anywhere else. And to me, that is the true reward. And I don't think I would have been so courageous to face my vulnerability and to come out and say, I'm here for you. Don't worry about it. I can stand by you. Although I don't have answers, I'll find answers for you. That takes a lot out of us. And Toastmasters prepared me for this day. And in every one of my communication, I probably have not written a better communication in the last 8 years than I have in the last 3 months. I had to dig really deep, and all of us had to. I'm sure each one of us had to dig deep. And that's really what the pandemic did to us. We are today, I think, around 89 to 90 clubs. We have about 10 more to go. But I think what we've learned from being out there is that if we persevere, if we keep that connection and conversation going, and if we support one another as a community of Toastmasters, a family of friends, as opposed to a more transactional member club area division kind of recipe, I think we could all come out stronger, and we will all be better people for having done that. I hope I answered some of your questions.
Sravanthi, thank you. That was a wonderful answer, and so full of the kind of things that we have had to deal with during this pandemic. And you really summed that up so well, and also how you experienced that and allowed that to grow you. So thank you very much. And we have run out of time. I wanted to put this back, send this back to Linda. And maybe you can go ahead and release your share screen.
Absolutely. I'm going to share a link. The Strengths Finder is what really drives me, the Clifton Strengths Finder. I'll share a link to that too. If you're interested in leveraging your strengths more than focusing on the opportunities, we can go really far. So I'll share a few links if you don't mind.
Sure, and don't forget, Sravanthi, to go ahead and save the chat, because there were a lot of really great messages in there for you.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
questions too, yeah.
And questions. Okay, so back to Linda.
Yes. Our next speaker is Cindy Laatsch. She's a DTM and Region 1 advisor, and she's never considered herself a scientist. As a constant reader, Cindy recently reread Sir Isaac Newton's 3 Laws of Motion. And like that apple that fell on Newton's head that led to the discovery of gravity, Cindy saw how Newton's 3 laws served as a mirror for leadership in life and in Toastmasters. Cindy served as District 35 Area and Division Director, Lieutenant Governor, Marketing, Program Quality Director, and District Director in sequential years. Cindy learned how seeing the skills in others was vital, and how nurturing leadership growth was part of everyone's success. Cindy Laatsch, the 3 laws. Isaac Newton was right. Isaac Newton was right. Cindy Laatsch.
Thank you, Linda. It's so exciting to be with you this evening. And Linda, when you reached out to me, you asked if I would share, and Cynthia, my leadership story. So I reflected back and thought, I have had some bumps along the way, but I wanted to share what I've learned with you in my path as I've had my Toastmaster journey. My husband worked and traveled easily 3 weeks out of 4. And I found that I would go to work, I would work all day, I would come home, I would eat a bowl of cereal, and then I'd log back on to work. And I'd do emails, I'd update spreadsheets, and I'd continue working. And I realized my life had become a series of gray on gray. I could no longer tell one day from the next. I consider myself a lifelong learner, and I said, Cindy, you have got to figure out something to do. Now, I'd heard of Toastmasters from people and business acquaintances, but I had this image of a dark, smoke-filled room with people lifting champagne glasses. And I thought, I don't know if that's for me. But I Googled Toastmasters and I found out there was a club 3 minutes from my home. So I put it on my calendar and I said, I'm going to go and I'm going to figure what this is. Now, I've never been afraid to speak, but I always wanted to increase my skill and evolve and be better. So the night I went to my first Toastmaster meeting, I stood out in the hallway and I looked in, which I think is an important message when you're in Toastmasters. to remember everyone comes to their first meeting and it always feels the same. I peeked in the room, looked and thought, there's a woman I work with in that room and her name is Jackie. And I went in and said, Jackie, what are you doing here at Toastmasters? She said, well, I'm in engineering and I have a vision for myself to become a leader. We work together at Harley-Davidson Motor Company in Milwaukee. She said, I have great engineering skills, but I really feel I need to do better in how I present and how I communicate. And I felt so relaxed to be there. The next thing that happened is a gentleman walked up to me, a mature gentleman. He had a clipboard and he walked up and said, my name is Larry. Good to meet you. I'm the Vice President of Membership. We are delighted you're here with us tonight. And I looked at him and said, Larry, don't you remember me? And he looked at me and I could see he was thinking, is she a former member? Has she been a guest before? And he said, I am so sorry, but I don't remember you. And I said, I was your kid's babysitter in 7th grade. And it was at that moment that I knew I needed to join that Toastmaster Club. It was October 1st, 2009, and I signed the form and committed to an organization that I knew I belonged to. 2 weeks later, I gave my icebreaker. And that was because another gentleman in the club, Dick, reached out to me and said, I'd like to support you. I'd like to mentor you and offer you guidance if you're interested. I said, of course. He said, don't wait too long to give that first speech. So 2 weeks after I joined, I gave the speech. Now, I have epilepsy, and I wanted to give a speech about how that is a part of me and how I've incorporated that into the person I am. And I gave a presentation called The Electrical Storm in My Head. I felt so relieved when it was done. I was proud of myself, and yet I thought of what I could have changed and done better, but I knew I was evolving. And Dick, my mentor, came up and he said, Cindy, someday you're going to be the district governor in District 35. And I said, well, that's really interesting, Dick, but I have no idea what that means. So I'll have faith in you. And he said, trust me. And he said those magic words that we as Toastmasters have heard so many times. He said, Cindy, I see something in you. And I proceeded to embrace Toastmasters and the experience of Toastmasters. And I became a club officer. I started to dabble in leadership roles. Now, I had leadership roles in my workplace, but this was completely different. I became a club officer, and about 1.5 years later, someone who was in district leadership saw me at an event and said, hey, Cindy, do you want to be an area director? And I said, I don't think so, because I didn't understand what it was, and I didn't understand what I could offer. And I just went about my Toastmaster business and continued learning and evolving. 1 year later, another district leader approached me and said, Cindy, I've watched you from a distance. You appear to like to coach people and mentor. I know you're always at the events. You have a very positive nature. I would like to discuss you being an area director on my team. As an area director, what you'll do is you'll support clubs, you'll help them evolve, you'll support their members, all in the support of them evolving as Toastmasters. And this time when I was asked, I said, of course I'll sign up. And that was my first step into Toastmaster leadership. I embraced it as an opportunity for me to learn a new skill. And what I found was, along the way, I received many gifts in return. When I served as an area director, which I still say has to be one of my favorite roles because you are so closely connected to the member, I grew so much as a person. And several people asked me as I stepped into other roles, did you learn a lot about Toastmasters? And invariably, I said the same thing. I think I learned more about myself. As I stepped into the roles, I served area director, division director, lieutenant governor marketing, program quality, district director, immediate past, and now I'm serving my second year as a region advisor. And this was all because someone looked at me one day and said, you have a special talent. I'd like to help you bring that talent out. It's a beautiful gift that you can offer. As I've continued to take steps, I've made mistakes along the way. I've done things that I wished I'd have done them differently or perhaps with a little more forethought. But what I realized was this Toastmaster experience that we're all in is so wonderful because you have the experience you need to have. Meaning, there were times I needed to learn something, and I needed to learn it by perhaps making a misstep or wishing I'd done something slightly different. That is the beauty of evolving as a leader. When I found out that I could be human, make mistakes, and be supportive of the individuals around me, I knew I was in the right place. What also happened was I was able to see things in other people. Suddenly, I had the vision that that gentleman Dick had in me. I saw people that had skill sets that either didn't think they did, or the other magic that I have discovered is no one had ever asked them. So as you look around in your workplace, in your Toastmaster world, in your family, and in your community, there are people out there who have gifts to bring. And very often, it's the person who can influence and get them to a place they didn't even know they needed to go. And very often in leadership, what I have experienced personally is I never thought I could get to that place until I took the step. And then I took the next step. And eventually what happened was I proved to myself, I can do this. I have competency. And what's interesting is other people are always looking at you. We're all being observed, whether we know it or not. And being observed means we have the power to influence people, to influence their behaviors, to influence the way they see the world, and perhaps to influence how they will step up as leaders. Recently, I had the amazing opportunity as a region advisor in Toastmasters to train the district leaders that are in place right now. We were supposed to be in Paris when we did this training, but we were on Zoom instead. And I have to tell you, there has never been a more resilient, more animated, more energized group of individuals. I got to train and talk about how you develop yourself in support of developing others. One cautionary tale I learned the hard way is when you strive to deliver and keep hitting those goals, one person that can get lost along the way is you. So as you look to evolve and stretch yourself and try new things, remember, nourish yourself. Whether that's reading, listening to podcasts, whether that's communing with family and friends, or just taking time to relax, that also, I learned, is a leadership opportunity. And we can burn out and we can burn other people out in the process. And as I looked at district leader training this year, they had this amazing slide in the slide deck. And it was a picture of something I had seen as a kid, and my dad had had one. And so, of course, I went to where we go always to find answers. I Googled it, and I found out it's called Newton's cradle. And then I went to Amazon, where everything else is provided, and I realized I could buy a Newton's cradle. Well, this is Newton's cradle. We've seen them. Some of us may even have them on our desks. And after I looked at this picture and remembered what I had learned as a kid, I realized that this device is here not only to show me Newton's 3 laws of motion, but to show me the impact we have as leaders and how our energy and our passion, whether we know it or not, is influencing people. So I pulled Newton's laws and I correlated them to what I know about how we lead. So Newton's first law says, an object remains at rest or it continues to move if it's acted on by an outside force. Think about your journey as a leader. Dick, that gentleman who came to me and said, I see something in you, he was that force. I did not know it at the time. He influenced me in a positive way, which now allows me to have the opportunity to influence in a positive way. And this device shows us how it happens. If this is you, you are here, you decide you're going to mentor someone, offer someone guidance, give them strength coaching. There's so many ways we influence. Well, look what happens. When you choose to make an influence, you influence others. What happens is when you choose Newton's law, when you choose to make the action, there is a reaction. Let me do it again. So one person can have an influence. The other thing I noticed about this was, did you notice that the 3 in the center don't move? What that means is the energy is moving through them. In Toastmasters and in life, I have found there are people that want to do as little as they can. Some Toastmasters want to go to their meetings on the first and third Wednesday and give an occasional speech. That's okay. Other people want to learn to step up and lead and practice being a leader. So even though the 3 here didn't move, they did not slow me down from wanting to influence others. So remember in your mind, when you see someone you know has skills or needs that you can support, remember, you can apply that force. Newton's second law says that the rate of change or momentum is directly proportional to the force that's applied to it. When I thought of myself as I learned to try to lead more, if I tried once in a while, I may or may not have an impact on people. But when I stepped into district leadership for Toastmasters, I told my husband, I am all in. And what that meant to me is, I am serving a 4-year term here in these roles, and every day I am choosing to do something in support of Toastmaster members. It might be big, it might be small, but it's going to be action that moves us forward. So once again, think about that. Momentum of a body. So once again, let's look. This is all about momentum and choices. If you're the leader and you choose to reach out to people, you are going to have an impact. Here's something magical that I saw. Imagine there's now 2 of you. There's 2 of you that are out supporting the district, supporting your members, supporting people's growth. 2 of you then decide to make this choice. Watch what happens. 2 people are influenced, which means there's less people in the center that are choosing not to be involved. So the more of you that choose to make positive impacts in your life, the more people you will impact. And the beauty is this is ripples in a pond. You influence people who influence people that you don't even know. It's a beautiful representation. And finally, the third law says, when one body exerts a force on another body, the second body exerts a force equal in magnitude in another direction. And what that meant to me is I know that there have been people that I have asked to serve, be on a committee, step up, who said, I would have never done that unless you asked me. So let's look at how we engage people, how we create this momentum. So as this momentum is created, what I learned is the people that you're influencing are now taking a step up and they're influencing. So at this point, what I'd like to ask you is, how are you going to influence? Are you going to step and take the challenge? As you look at influencing others, I challenge you, step up and take the lead. You're the right person. Thank you.
Thank you so
Beautiful.
much, Cindy. That was wonderful. We have a bunch of questions for you. Cynthia, I hope this is for Cindy. She says, you offered a lot to Toastmasters. What has Toastmasters given you that you have shared outside of Toastmasters?
Excellent question. I have become, and this is funny, I am not an IT professional, but I work at Harley-Davidson in Milwaukee, and I've been there 22 years, and they actually brought me into the IT department to run the global help desk, not because I have IT skills, but because I became confident in communication skills. So Toastmasters is a place where I learned to practice things. It's a place where I learned to try a style or try a technique. And the other thing that I truly have found impactful from Toastmasters is the ability to give and, most importantly, receive feedback, whether that's from your manager, whether that's from the people that work for you. It's a beautiful thing when you create that feedback loop. And that was all truly just from Toastmasters.
Thank you, Cindy. My question is, because I know that you were talking about that you learned a lot. What's the biggest thing you have learned about yourself in fulfilling your leadership roles?
I think the largest lesson I learned, which I did not think I had the skill set, I knew I had perseverance, but what I found was I wasn't trusting myself enough to take the responsibility and add my creativity and go for the solution. So this was I call it a petri dish. This was like a scientific petri dish where I could learn to experiment. And what I learned was I can trust myself. I can take my creativity and spin it in with the help of others and their dynamic ideas, and we come up with the second right answer.
Cindy, this has been an absolutely fantastic presentation, and I really appreciate everything that you've done. Michelle, thank you for managing the chat. And as she said, do save the chat.
The chats, yeah, there's a bunch. There's tons of messages for you.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a 5-minute break, at which time you'll come back and you'll be going out into breakout rooms. So please be back on time. Mona will have the time cards up. Right now I have 6:53, so we'll be going to 6:58, and we'll see you back soon.
Thank you for your response, Sravanthi. That was amazing.
Thank you, Cynthia. I'm trying to look back at a couple of questions that I did not get to. And those are really the one question that I'm trying to answer right now, if I have your permission, I'd like to share is, how do you relate to your trifecta beyond Toastmasters? Well, all of that I shared in my sets of threes and my final trifecta of clarity, connection, and confidence was because of Toastmasters. And I live it in and out of Toastmasters, but Toastmasters is what helped me realize that. And that's really where I was going with that message is it has become me. I don't know to be otherwise.
Nice.
So that's really what I got out of Toastmasters is that clarity, connection, and confidence that I take everywhere. It has become me anymore, but Toastmasters has gotten me to this point. And that's really my story is every time I think of threes, and they change, but the last three, the clarity, confidence, and clarity, connection, and confidence in that order never changes.
Nice. And you've fully integrated what you learned and have learned from Toastmasters, and that's true personal growth. So I just love it. Thank you so much for being here.
It comes only with a lot of reflection, and it's hard to reflect and be honest. It is hard. It is very draining. It is very draining, but after a certain point, it becomes a habit, and it's easy after that.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the opportunity. I love this. I love this. Thank you. It's so nice to meet everyone.
Thank you. You've contributed to our global love bubble.
And Cindy, you are so eloquent and just such a storyteller. And I tend to speak in abstracts because I get too caught up in my stories, and I try to stay away because I get carried away. So I try to consciously stay away from those stories, but you're just amazing. I loved how you brought everything in, and towards the end, especially your visual aid, could not have.
Oh, thank you. I was just sent you a message too. I loved your Venn diagram of life, as I called it. But the three circles. That is, I need that. That is just such a beautiful representation. And I don't know, I guess I've found in my life experience, that classic thing, if you tell people what to do and you leave, they forget. But somehow if you imprint a story on them, or you explain the vision, and this is the why, and then you can leave, they have something to hold on to. And I know that works for me. And working in IT, I will tell you, it's an interesting challenge. I said the first year I worked in IT, I think they looked at me and went, her mouth is moving. She's saying things. But we have a wonderful collaborative relationship.
I have to work 10 times harder to convince people I'm a technologist and I'm a nerd on that side. I'm in IT too. I'm in
Total
IT.
Nerd.
I have to work
Total
10
nerd.
times harder because we are very, very talkative, energetic IT people, and it's different when we don't always talk technology, right?
Yeah. Total nerd. I started to embrace my nerdiness in midlife and went, you know what? It works for me.
Works for me. And I'm making speakers out of all of the technologists at Progressive. Everyone come to Toastmasters. You can talk about technology.
Yeah. We started actually 5 Toastmaster clubs at Harley-Davidson.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah. And it's not that huge of a company. So the IT department immediately said, this has value. And then one spurned the other. So yeah, it's amazing.
Nice. Very nice. We have 3 here in Cleveland and a few around the country. Yeah.
And where do you work?
I work at Progressive Insurance.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You have awesome ads.
We do. And everyone thinks it's like, Flo, but she's so popular. People love her quirkiness.
It's a story.
It is. It is. And she's consistent with it.
Yeah.
And she's proud of her quirkiness. So.
Do you know her personally?
She visited a couple times, so we all got to take pictures, say hello, give her hugs, and it was before the virtual days, but yes.
We were on a conference at Harley-Davidson. We just came out with a new marketing campaign. It's called United We Will Ride. And we were all,
nice.
it's on amazing, it's on social media. We were all on a conference call with the president of Harley, and all of a sudden he said, well, I've got a friend, he's dialed in, and we got to chat with Jason Momoa for the next 45 minutes.
Mm.
And
Wow.
so yeah, he did the video, so it was fun.
Great.
It wasn't as good as Flo though.
She's amazing. Linda, are you back? Are we ready for our breakout sessions? Maybe she's not quite back yet. I hope she's just not having a
Let me
oh,
see
there
if
she
she's.
is.
difficulty,
Hi.
Whoa,
So
we
you-
got a little nervous here. I was sweating bullets.
I was thinking, uh-oh, it's the rolling blackout.
No,
So you
not
guys
yet.
are having blackouts?
Yes, we've been
Well,
notified
in California.
by
Getting us ready for the big one.
Cal ISO has notified us that at any moment we can go blank for an hour or two, depending upon what the grid looks like. So much fun.
Between 3 and 10 p.m. So
Yes.
right
They're
in the
very
middle of what we're
civilized.
doing.
Very civilized.
That sense of adventure.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have 2 backup Zoomers. So Michelle and Seema both are ready to be backup Zoomers in
Yeah.
case we do go dark.
Yes.
Smart.
So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, are you ready to go into breakout rooms?
Yay.
We are.
Tonight we have
Yay!
7 breakout rooms that have varying
Wow.
numbers of people in them. And there are speakers in each one of them. Some have 2, some have 1. If you only have 1, then you have more of an opportunity to do table topics. And we would like you all back at 7:48.
Great. 7:48. So precise.
Yes.
Love it.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you
So
ready to
Linda,
go?
if-
Remember
if
to
you-
click join so that
Oh,
you actually go
I think
into
somebody
them.
had a question there, Linda. What was that question?
My question was, Linda, if you should vanish, if in the middle of this, how would we know that you disappeared, or we would just come back and find you're gone?
You'd probably just come back and find me gone since you are a co-host, so it shouldn't.
It should be fine.
It should
Okay,
be fine.
great.
Yeah.
You
All
can
right.
text her.
Are y'all ready?
Text.
I'm sorry?
You could always text me.
Right.
Yes, that
I
would
can
be
do
great.
that. All
That
right.
would be great.
Here you go.
All right, good.
Yay! See you on the other side.
I was always looking for them to say my name every day. I loved
That's
Romper
right.
Room.
Me too.
Did they ever say your name?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They did.
Yeah. I was so
Ooh.
excited when they said my name.
Oh yeah, Michelle's pretty popular.
Yeah.
They
They
said mine
said,
every
they
once in
said
a
my
while.
name, so they must have
But I
said your last name too.
Yep.
Okay, so Cindy is leaving us.
Okay, bye, Cindy.
Bye, Cindy.
She has a sick puppy.
Oh.
I do. It's 9, what is it here? It's 9:50 at night here, and so I needed to go take care of but you guys have been a joy. Thank you so
Thank
much. I'd love to come
Thank
back.
you for staying for the breakout.
Don't
Yes,
forget the
thank
chat.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And look for YouTube tomorrow, maybe. Okay. So everything went well in your breakout rooms. I had a little snafu with one person, but we got that all squared away. And I think everybody had I don't want to say a good time, but you heard some really great speeches from the people in your group. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Amelia, how did Lynn's handling difficult audiences go?
Well, it could not have been a more difficult audience, I must say that. And she handled it with such grace and charm and just lightness. And so I really just want to thank her for allowing us to be her disruptors, because they were in full effect. So
Ah,
It was great. It was great.
awesome. Okay, so it's time for sharing and takeaways and chocolate. So who would like to go first? Don't all raise your hand at once. Varsha.
So this is one of my first evaluations ever here at Speechcraft, and I gotta say it was a pretty good speech. Kathleen, the speaker, she was talking about the little about our hands and fingerprints, all different from one another, and I really enjoyed evaluating that speech.
Okay, thank you. Are you ready for your chocolate?
Yay!
There you go. Tony, did you want to say something? You're muted now.
Seema had her hand up.
Seema, where are you? There you are. Go for it.
You know, I've been with Toastmasters since 2018, and every time I think I got a good handle on something and I'm really good at evaluating and really good at maybe speaking, someone comes up and does such a great, amazing job that it's like, okay, I'm feverishly taking notes. There's always some kind of a learning. We were lucky enough to have Cindy in part of our breakout room. So we got time and value from that, and all the speakers were great. The evaluators were great. Something to learn from every single person.
Awesome. Are you ready for your chocolate?
Yep.
There you go.
Thank you.
Cynthia.
I was in the room with Jean Luong, who's the leader of our youth leader group here, and we had Varsha as an evaluator, and she shared a little bit, and we had Rena as an evaluator, and I tell you, they are just amazing. They blow me out of the water, and as I told them, they're probably better than 90% of the adult Toastmaster evaluators all around the world. They're just amazing. I'm excited to see them to continue to grow, and I know next week they're going to have a little presentation for us on Monday, so I'm just so excited that you're all a part of our amazing Speechcraft. You just kicked it up a notch. Thank you.
Absolutely. And here you go, Cynthia.
Woo!
And how about one for each of, Rosemary, I'll get you in just a second. How about for each of our youth evaluators and youth timers? And Jean as well. Here's your chocolate.
Woohoo!
All right. Rosemary, what did you want to say?
I too want to say that we had a great speech. She involved us. She gave us information. We heard her speech was well researched. She spoke about Aristotle. She spoke about 8,000 years ago. Asked us to pass our finger on the lines of our palms. The evaluators, they were both great. They are young, but they gave us food for thought. They listened and they gave her what they challenged her to do, things she did not do during her speech. And at the end of our speech, instead of a tabletop, we were asked to look straight into the camera, thanks to Scott, where she told us to look into the camera, and she gave us tips on how we should look into the camera. When we did that, all of us felt connected to each other in the room. This evening, we had a great time.
Awesome. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, Rosemary. And here's your chocolate.
Thank you.
So, someone else. Allison.
Linda.
And
Linda, Ishrat, it is like, even I was waiting for the chocolate, and I think even Amelia is waiting for chocolate.
Oh, okay. So Allison's next.
Right. I had the privilege to evaluate Fatima's speech today, and she gave a stunning icebreaker speech, which I really enjoyed evaluating. In addition, I got a wonderful evaluation on my evaluation from Tong, who was the group advisor. And I also had the privilege and opportunity to gain a lot of insight through table topics from Sravanthi and Martin. So it was overall a great breakout room, and I really enjoyed it.
Fantastic. And here's your chocolate. And one for Amelia. And Ishrath, we can't see you, so I'm going to throw you the chocolate and hope it gets through to your picture.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I can take one more.
I want to squeal about my evaluators. They've already been praised, but I got to squeal. These guys are so good, so sharp, so clear, so fearless and willing that they just inspired me.
Fantastic. And Caitlin, your chocolate.
Nummy, nummy.
Yes. All right. Thank you all for those wonderful comments. It's so wonderful to have our youth folks here as well. They've been just a joy to be part of the Speechcraft. So I have some final announcements. Remember that we are going 2 more weeks, the 24th and the 31st, and the graduation is in September on the 21st. So don't miss any of those. International Convention, which is free for all, it's a free for all, virtual, and it's from the 24th of August, so it starts next Monday, runs through August 29th. It will not impact Speechcraft because it ends at, I keep forgetting, is it 2 or 3?
3 hours before us.
Yes, so you will have no problems. I will put the registration link in the chat.
And I put my email in the chat if you're interested in becoming a VIP speaker at our Speechcraft for the remainder and or becoming a charter member of the new club. And we're going to meet 4 times every month, and we're going to meet at different times. We're going to meet at the same time here at 5:45 to 8 p.m. on the first and third Mondays of the month. And then on the 2nd and 4th, we're going to meet at 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. so that people in Africa, Europe, and the Middle East can meet with us without getting up in the middle of the night. And I see you just posted the registration link there. Thank you, Linda.
Oh, you're so very welcome. And so in our final adjournment, I have a quote for you. And this is from Bob Goshen. And he says, leaders should influence others in such a way that it builds people up, encourages, and edifies them so that they can duplicate this attitude in others. And with that, I thank you so very much for another successful Speechcraft. And we'll see you all again next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Cynthia.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Linda.
Well done,
Bye.
everyone. We're morning.
Thank you, Linda.
You're
Excellent.
welcome.
Great meeting.
Great.